Okay, and we should be live if everything went pretty well. Have the way of checking. I'm just about to ramble on, but I'll just stop there. But
Don't do that.
good evening, good good morning, good day, wherever you're listening from, and welcome to another episode of Everything Outside Code. And today I have a wonderful guest uh, on the show, Lindsay Key. Yeah, I keep it at Lindsay Key. Lindsay, you want to say hi before we proceed?
Yes, hi everyone. Lindsay Keyfauver. I know it's a tough last name, but yeah, I'm super excited to chat. We were having good conversation before we even went live, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this one. We're going to talk about everything. This one says everything fractional CMO. So we're going to start with that, and then we proceed to everything that makes great from marketing strategy to more excited about partnerships within Web3 ecosystem and just about everything around that. So if you're clueless as to what a fractional CMO does, I think you're in the right place by listening to this. If you want to get tips and tricks of what to do and what not to do, what works and what doesn't work, you're going to get a bunch of that on the stream. And if you have any comments, just leave them wherever you are, either on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Twitter, X. We're definitely going to take those on the stream. So we just get right to it, Lindsay. Could you tell us how you got here?
Yeah, well, let me start with my background, and then we'll move to right now on this live stream. So
Yeah.
I've lived many lives. I feel like I've been all over the place. So starting
Okay.
with like my Web 2 life, I started out my career leading sales teams, leading customer success teams, very, very heavy hand in marketing. For example, I did a lot in ed tech. I was super passionate about helping people figure out what tracks they wanted to go into college, what they were passionate about, what makes sense. I did that at two different companies. And there I learned a ton about sales metrics. I was like super analytics girl. I was looking at my metrics like multiple times a day. It's like how people that are crazy about like their social media analytics, I was like that with my sales analytics. And I was just like looking at lead sources, and I was looking at like marketing campaigns, and I was figuring out like even all the way down to how I was saying things. I used to have like a key box
Mhm.
poster taped to my desk, which had like specific words that I recognized, like perked people's ears up. So like I was very particular about conversations that I was having, and what we were talking about. Um,
Mhm.
I figured out I was really good at sales pretty early in my career. That's when I moved into real estate. So I was like, you know what? I'm killing the sales thing. Let me go over and do like commission based side of things and just sell
Yeah.
houses. So I did that for a brief time and then went back into ed tech, eventually moving into mortgage tech. Back in 2019, I did my master's in advertising at Syracuse, which was an awesome program. So did that, and then did some like a short course in digital marketing analytics at MIT, because I was like, I got this sales thing down. I know a lot about marketing, but I want like the paper to prove that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So when I eventually switched over to customer success, it's because, and salespeople know this, once you close the sale, you pass them off to somebody typically to like manage that relationship. And I never
Yeah.
ever passed them off. I held on to them. I always held on to them. And it like bothered the salespeople that I would do that. And it would bother the post sale people. So it's like, I need to go to customer
Yeah.
success because I can still upsell, I can still cross sell, I can still manage a relationship, I can do partner marketing, I can do everything there. So that's when I transitioned into customer success. So that's my Web 2 life. I got really lucky getting into Web 3. I initially found out about Bitcoin in 2013. I was like a broke ass undergrad kid that was
Yeah.
studying biology, and I had no idea what Bitcoin was. I thought it was a scam. My friend was like, "Hey, I put $5,000 into this," and I was like, "What does $5,000 even look like in a bank account?" I have no idea.
Wow.
So forgot about
That's
it.
not brand now.
I know, right? Exactly. But forgot about it. And then probably around like 2016, 2017, I was sitting at my desk doing ed tech stuff, and an ad popped up for Bitcoin again. I don't remember what I was doing, but something popped up for Bitcoin. And I was like, oh, wonder if my friend is like a billionaire who dropped off the face of the earth, and like, what's going on with this? So that's when I ended up entering the market on my own, started investing on my own, doing some research, and was like waking up at like midnight in the middle of the night, looking at the candlestick charts, like freaking out about everything. It was like super healthy. It like got crazy. But yeah, I got into Web3 because a recruiter had reached out to me. I had just moved to Denver. Recruiter reached out to me and was like, hey, there's this Web3 company that's looking for somebody to come do customer success. And I was like, say no more. Like, I know what is going on here. I hold tokens and coins and all this stuff that's going on. So like, let's talk. And that's how I entered the market. I wasn't even looking. It just kind of found me.
Wow. So how's it been?
It has been, okay, I have aged about 50 years in the last 3 years. Like, yeah, I have definitely aged. Super, super stressful, but in the best way possible. I mean, Web3 is always evolving. It's changing. What the ecosystem looked like even in 2016 to 2021 to even last year. I mean, we've seen all these different cycles, and the technology is changing, and I feel like we have come so far such a short amount of time, and the adoption is, I think people are starting to catch on now, and it's getting a lot of good and bad attention. But I'm gonna stick around, and you know, we'll see what happens.
I'm very curious how you've navigated like the bull and the bear market cycles, because I got into Web3 in 2017 as well, bought a ton of like shit coins. Saw Bitcoin at 300. I think that was my first time I saw Bitcoin. It was at 300. And then the first cycle 2018 got burned a lot. And 2021 again, and then I was like, peace, I'm done. So how's it been for you? And you stayed, and you stayed all through what? It's been it's been like almost 7 years now, 6-7 years.
It's been really emotional. I know that sounds really weird. But I mean, like, I've seen like all-time highs, and I've seen the super lows. I mean, like, I've seen a lot of things happen around FTX. I've watched a lot of partnerships that I was close friends with, like these early stage founders that were starting to get traction, and then something happens in the market that's completely out of their control. For example, like an FTX collapse or a bank run. And it just completely destroys it. Like they can't do anything about it. And it sucks, because like, these are the founders that have educated me, and they've taught me a lot of what I know. Thankfully, thanks to all the founders out there that take their time to actually explain things to me, or have conversations, or refer me to people that know what I'm looking for. But yeah, it's been a lot of wins, a lot of celebrating, a lot of, collapses that make you question if things are going to be around. But at the end of the day, I think we're into hyperdrive now. I think we're going to start to see things pick up exponentially here in the next few years, especially because, Web 2, I think, is starting to pay a little bit more attention to what we're doing and try to understand the technology. Just like me, I'm still trying to understand it too.
I'm curious. How'd you go from customer success all the way to CMO, right? Did you realize that, okay, you want to go back to marketing instead of holding on to those customers that you bring on?
I've always done marketing. Even if my title is not marketing, I have always had a super, super heavy hand in marketing, because I'm leading sales teams, and then I'm going back to my marketing team and strategizing around that, and then helping them implement things, looking at the analytics, adjusting the strategy, So I've always been super, super, super heavy handed in marketing. For me, I see marketing as a place to where I can do everything. I'm kind of like a full funnel customer acquisition generalist. I know that's like a mouthful. That really what I am, because I'm a closer. I'm an upseller. I'm no shame. I'll cold outreach to anybody. I'm a connector. And then I'll hold on to those people. I'm really good at keeping in touch with people, even just to see like, hey, what are you working on? Who can I keep in mind to refer over to you if you're looking for specific partnerships? And then all that goes into marketing. So from acquisition all the way down to churn. I mean, there's marketing at every single point of that. So you're still holding on to that. I mean, I do BD every single day for myself and for the partners and clients that I'm working with as well. So I like to stay heavy on the BD as well.
It's like full pipeline from sourcing all the way to closing and actually keeping them on and account management.
Yep.
That's interesting. So what does a CMO do? For anyone that doesn't know, CEO is like, the person that manages the company. CFO takes care of finances. COO helps. Actually, what does the COO do? I think I'll get to that later. But what does the CMO do?
Okay. COO is operations, cross-functional operations. Everybody's doing what they need to do to make sure that we're on track to like hit goals, right? That's COO. CMO focuses on customer acquisition, customer retention. It can be branding, it could be awareness. It depends on what is important to the particular product and at what phase they're in, right? So like a seed or pre-seed company's marketing is going to look very different from like a Series D marketing, right? But CMO is more so like top looking down strategy. So typically what I do is I have conversations with these clients and these projects and understand what's important to them. What are their goals? What kind of events are going on? What's their tone? What's their voice? Is this kind of a regulated product that we need to be careful with what we're saying? Or is this a meme to where we can go full degen and say whatever we want? And then basically you come together with a full strategy. It's kind of like a product roadmap, but for marketing. And then you work cross-functionally with your specialists and your marketing managers to go ahead and implement that and make sure that everything is kind of meshed together in one full story.
Oh, that makes sense. How does a fractional CMO differ from a normal CMO?
Fractional CMO means that I pretty much come on temporarily. I'm there to help more so these early stage companies, or for maybe there's a CMO that is coming from Web 2 and doesn't know a lot about Web 3. Like they know all the strategy, they know how to implement it, right? But Web 3 is a little bit different from Web 2 in tone. Web 3 is more community based as well. So there are little tweaks that, when you're transitioning from Web 2 to Web 3, you really need to pay attention to and understand the strategy around that. It's easy to pick up on as long as you have somebody like me or somebody generally that's like crypto native that can kind of guide you on that for your first few, I would say probably quarter to 6 months.
Yeah. So I guess when does a startup or a company, Web3 company, realize that, we need a CMO or they need a fractional CMO, right? Does this differ from getting like a head of marketing, or do they have like similar functions? How does that look like? I'm just trying to piece this in an organization of like a Web3 startup company.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting because I see a lot of these super early stage companies that are like, we need a CMO. And when I say CMO and I think of somebody like me, I think strategy. I'm like, here's high level. This is what we need to do. Here is the full roadmap, right? And then they can answer these questions and kind of narrow and funnel down the strategy with the executors, the experts, the ones that are actually implementing this stuff, right? So for early stage companies, I've had conversations with some where I'm like, you don't need really a strategist right now, because some of the strategy is straightforward. Like some people, you have an idea of what you need to do. You need somebody
Yeah.
who's an executor, a CMO, somebody like me. Now I execute a lot on the Denari side as well, because I've been doing it for many years. But once you get to a certain level, you need a team to be able to execute in their particular funnel, right? Like you need a Twitter expert. You need a PR, earned media, paid media expert, right? Like you need these people to sit
Mhm.
down and do it, because not like you can't have a single person like me sit down and execute that flawlessly across all these things, because like I only have 24 hours in a day and I don't sleep ever. All strategy and executing as much as I possibly can, and doing BD to try to build these partnerships for
Mhm.
our products as well. So when you're hiring a CMO, think more strategy. They can do a little bit of execution, but more so like these are the people that want to be the face. They want to speak about your product. They want to
Mhm.
be building these relationships on that side of things. Whereas you might need maybe like a marketing specialist in a particular area if you want to start small. So again, it
Yeah.
depends, and it depends on the budget as well.
Yeah.
It depends. There's not a right answer for that.
Yeah. Huh. It depends. I guess is it a common misconception amongst like startup founders when you bring on a marketing person, especially maybe fractional CMO, expect them to do a lot of execution as well as the strategy, probably because they're still like super early stage and everyone does everything. Is
Yep.
that something that you see happen commonly?
I do see it a lot, and that's fine. And like I said, like some CMOs want to do it, but the thing is, like you are
Mhm.
not going to get a CMO to be able to not only strategize but execute on every single outlet,
A single
depending
thing. Yeah.
on what your budget is. I am a fan of like the smallest budget as organic as possible, because I think
Yeah.
you can do a lot with your community without having to spend a ton of money. But there is value
Hmm.
to being able to have a larger budget and get into particular outlets. But again, like I mean, there's so many different marketing outlets. I mean, you're even thinking about like SEO. You might have an event planner. You might have a social media manager that is managing specialists that specialize in Twitter, in LinkedIn, in
Yeah.
Farcaster, in Discord. You know what I mean? So like, there's so many
Yeah.
different outlets that you really need somebody high level to be that operational strategist
Hmm.
person to oversee it, bring everybody together so everybody's on the right page, and then execute it. And one person, no matter what your title is, I don't care what your title is, one person cannot do all of that.
Can't. Yeah. Definitely one person can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some other like common misconceptions around being like a fractional CMO? What startups expect, especially founders?
I think the biggest thing is, listen, the most successful projects that I work with integrate me and my team into what they're doing. Because think about it, if you have an in-house marketing team, they're going to be sitting probably
Hmm.
in your weekly meetings, like your weekly updates, right? They might be in your
Yeah.
product stand-ups, depending on if they're a product marketer, right? They need to understand what's on
Hmm.
your roadmap so that they can create their own content calendars. So they're
Yeah.
they're much more integrated. So the more
Hmm.
communication that I have with my projects and my clients that I'm working with, the better that we can plan and we can execute on it. So like the more information, the better. Even if
Yeah.
they're like, hey, I have this idea, run it by us so that we can strategize that and see how we can execute that. Or maybe there needs to be a budget allocated with that and we can give you an idea if that's feasible or not. So I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest thing is people think, oh, well, just bring in somebody who's executed on tons and tons of marketing campaigns and they'll just be able to build it out. For like
Yeah.
100%, we can advise you. We're the experts. But at the end of the day, like we need to know your product. We need to know what you're thinking of. We need to know if there's
Hmm.
pivots. We need to know a lot of things to be able to do it well. It's not a magic
Yeah.
pill.
Yeah. I can imagine, especially if they work with an agency, they just feel like they could just throw it to the agency and the agency figures it out because they've done it a couple of times. Um, do you have to set that expectation up front? Because for us, we sort of have to do that, else it always ends up like really bad.
Yeah. So basically what I do, and let me back up. So like I part of my day is spent at Denari heading marketing for the Tokenomics Accelerator. And we
Mm-hmm.
can talk a little bit more about that. And then the other part of my day is doing fractional CMO for Coinbound, which is a Web3 marketing agency. So I have
Okay.
two alter egos throughout the day.
Yeah.
That I do. So on the agency side, when I'm working with clients, basically what I do is do my research beforehand, right? I want to understand what the product is, who's on the team, what is the current tone. I'll look over the
Mm-hmm.
website if they're at that point, right? Some people come in and they're not even to that point yet. And then when I go into the conversation with strategy, I try to clarify everything. I try to understand, for example, like we have a new L1 that's getting ready to launch. And I'm like, I need to
Mm-hmm.
understand what the setup here is. Like, what's the utility behind this? What kind of, are you B2B? Are you D2C? Are you both? There's a lot of questions that I have that I need to clarify. But I also come in with a strategy in my head and kind of run it by
Mm-hmm.
them first to see like, hey, do you agree with this? Do you not agree with this? This is why I'm
Yeah.
advising this. This is how and why I'm advising this. What are your thoughts on it? And after that conversation, I'll typically create like a high level strategy doc that's anywhere from, earlier stage is going to be smaller, maybe 5 pages. I've done one up to
Mm-hmm.
18 pages, just depends.
Wow.
And then I work with my specialists and my managers and my directors to implement that. So, I set expectations up front. I let them understand, like we
Yeah.
can implement it, but we can't guarantee, anything because you need to have product market fit. You need to make sure that we're reaching the right audiences. If
Mm-hmm.
something changes on your roadmap, we need to adjust that, right? So like we do everything that we can to make sure that we're killing it because they're paying money for us. So we
Yeah.
want to make sure we're executing and making some kind of dent in what their goals are.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's very helpful. So speaking of like Web3 and strategy, like marketing strategy, what does that look like? You mentioned community events, social media, stuff done by specialists, but you bring all these together. So could you give us could you provide some insight into what strategy looks like when you want to like make one? Maybe a lighter version of it would even be fine.
Yeah, for sure. So I make all my strategies. They're all different. Every single project and team that I work with, they're every single one of them is different. I try to create a
Hmm.
template because the way that my thinking works, I have it kind of laid out in kind of
Okay.
like a funnel form. So it depends on what their goals are, honestly, and it depends on what kind
Yeah.
of project it is. Like a DeFi project versus like a meme coin, even like an NFT project, is going to look different. Um,
Yeah.
the strategy could be the same. Like they might all want KOLs, for example, key opinion leaders. That's the Web3 world of influencers. They might all want
Of course.
KOLs, but you need to make sure, like, hey, is the tone of what
Yeah.
this person's saying different compared to a meme coin,
Hmm.
KOL? So the strategy is there, and what we talk about, depending on budget and depending on what goals are. I mean, it can be anything from obviously KOLs. We can do social media. That's across
Hmm.
Twitter, LinkedIn, Meta, Instagram, whatever it is, right? That makes sense for them and where they're on. Um,
Hmm.
we can create content calendars. We can do copywriting. We can do graphics. We can do website redesign, paid and earned media. I mean, like anything and everything that you can think
Anything.
of through marketing,
Yeah.
the analytics, and then pivot
Mhm.
or keep doing what's working.
Mhm.
Again, depending on what needs to be done and what the goals are. It's such a hard,
Yeah.
like it's a simple question, but it's hard to answer because I genuinely do. I take hours and
Mhm.
really sit back and really think about what is
Yeah.
working, what is trending, what would make sense, how do we get people to pay attention or engage and ask questions or
Yeah.
again, it depends. Like, what's the conversion here? Is it wallet connects? Is it collecting emails for a newsletter? Like, I don't know. It depends on where the company is at, what is happening. Is the airdrop happening? Is there TGE? Are they past that?
Yeah.
It really depends, but it is super custom to the project and the teams.
Yeah. So I've seen, from my time in the Web3 like ecosystem, it's community heavy. How important is this to like the strategies? Is something it feels at some point it felt like a default that once you have like a Web3 project, the first thing you create after you get a domain name is you get like a Discord server going and you just get a community going. How important is that? Is that something you factor into the strategy, marketing strategy, or this is also something that depends on where the company is at or some other factor?
No, it's really important. The outlet is important, and understanding your community is really important. You don't want to just spin up, let's say, for example, like Web3 communities. Typically, the top two are Telegram and Discord. There's other outlets, but it's Telegram, it's Discord, and then you can
Hmm.
add Twitter into there as well. That's where
Yeah.
your community lives. But you need to understand, like, is it Discord over Telegram? Is it one or the other? Is it both?
Hmm.
And then how are you using a Telegram different from a Discord, right? Like,
Yeah.
Discord these days is a lot of like games, NFT heavy, in my opinion, whereas Telegram, there's a lot of things going on with like airdrops or really anything lives in Telegram at this point. I mean, it's even
Yeah.
like news updates. Some Telegram channels don't even let you have comments. It's just a place to get news or exclusive news
Yeah.
outside of Twitter. And they might be just using Twitter for their community. Again, it really depends on what makes sense and what's working. And
Hmm.
sometimes it can surprise you. But I think what is important is understanding, again, like, is it a technical audience? Is it a non-technical audience? Why do you
Hmm.
want a community? What are you going to be saying in this community? What kind of value are you going to be adding to this community? And then how are you recognizing your community as well? What I mean by that is, again, like some of these Web3 projects, D2C specifically, like you want to be engaging with them in, let's say, a Twitter, right? Like you want to be mentioning them, you want to be highlighting them. It's kind of like the unsaid, like UGC side of
Hmm.
marketing, leveraging your community. But also, I think a lot of marketers maybe are not thinking about this. And this is just me turning on like my sales, customer success brain.
Yeah.
Your community is where you get your feedback for your product. So this is really like, it's about awareness and like engagement, right? But like if you really get in there and you listen, you're going to understand, like, what do they like about your product? What do they not like about their product? Um,
Hmm.
how quick do they want things? Are they ready for this airdrop like yesterday? Or are you diddly daddling along and people are
Yeah.
now dropping off because you're not doing what you say you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
Um, a DevRel community is going to be very different from like a retail community. It depends on the product and what the voice is and what the atmosphere is and really what you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah. And I can also imagine that some of these principles transfer to other communities outside Web3, like other SaaS product communities as well. I just see that there's a lot more engagement in the average Web3 community than a
Yeah.
SaaS product community. I've been trying to replicate that across board, like the same activity. It's just different. Maybe because the Web3 communities, they have like it's incentive heavy as
Yeah.
well. Do you think that maybe that could be like a differentiator? Because it's really tough building out like a Web2 SaaS product community that's engaging like a
Yeah.
Web3 one.
It is very incentive heavy, I would say. Maybe whitelisting for airdrops or setting up like Zealy or Galaxy quests and campaigns. You kind of see it in Web 2 a little bit. For example, I was thinking about this the other day.
Hmm.
Like Disney has a pretty big community. Sure, it's not in Telegram, it's not necessarily in Discord, but I mean, I know friends that have made friends just from being on like Disney Twitter and talking to each other all the time on like Disney
Yeah.
tweets. And now they're friends and they've lived together just from
Hmm.
meeting off of
Oh.
Twitter. So like I think there are communities in the web 2 world. I
Hmm.
would maybe call them like a cult following instead of a community. Because there's like think about the conventions and stuff that are going on, like Comic-Con, for example. Like I would say that that's a
Yeah.
community. I'm sure there's things going on in like Twitch and whatnot, that
Yeah.
could mirror certain aspects to Web3 community as well. But Web3 is, people meet people, and then they meet at conventions,
Hmm.
and then now they're referring business back and forth, or they're actually
Hmm.
joining these joining the companies that are within the community. It's just a good way to show your support and to get some on-chain liquidity going and build recognition and kind of like that network effect.
Yeah. Hmm. That makes a whole lot of sense. Something that just popped, into my mind while you were speaking was you had a couple of terms that I think I understood, like maybe two or three of them. How did you go from
Okay.
all the Web 2 like terminologies and that whole like ecosystem to the Web 3 stuff and like all the really technical bits? Because you know how to communicate these things, so you understand them and you could talk
Yeah.
about them sometimes, right? Maybe not in like as much depth like a technical person, but how'd you go from 0 to 100 with all the Web3 terminologies and knowing where they fit? Did you make a
Yeah.
conscious effort to like learn, or you just picked it up with experience?
A little bit of both. So
Okay.
the first Web3 company that I worked at, we were managing, I don't know, anywhere from like 500 to 700 partnerships, and that was customer success, and also that included user support and DevRel, right? So I was seeing the B2B side of things, I was seeing the D2C side of things, so I was seeing what the
Hmm.
users were saying, and then I was understanding what the devs, what kind of product questions they were asking, or feature requests or upgrades. So, and then throughout my Web3 career, I've worked with, accelerator programs and very early stage companies. I like to take risks. I like working with these earlier stage and like building these processes from the ground up. But literally
Hmm.
just having conversations with these founders, with these devs, asking questions. And it takes a while to get confidence to ask the right questions. It takes a while to understand which questions you should ask. And you need to have some initiative to do your own research as well. I will see a new product coming out and it's a technology that I have never even heard
Hmm.
of, and a lot of us haven't heard of. You need to go and do your own research and
Yeah.
understand different components. And it moves so quickly that some of the stuff that I knew back in 2021, I've already forgotten about it because my brain has just been filled up with so much new stuff at this point.
All the
You
stuff.
know,
Yeah.
it's like sometimes people will ask me like these super simple questions and I'm like, shit, like I know the answer to this, but I haven't thought about it in so long because I've been thinking about
Yeah.
this other technical thing or learning about this other thing that I've
Yeah.
completely forgotten this other concept. So,
Yeah.
I think everybody is like that. Nobody's an expert in Web3. If they say they're an expert, they might have like a niche expertise, like they're a
Yeah.
niche expertise, but there's no like Web3 expert. We're all learning and
Expert.
everything's
Yeah.
and it's changing. Yeah.
I think I know a couple that have said they're like Web3 experts, like through and through, all the way. So probably bullshitting at some point.
They're probably an expert at like one particular thing, which I think is super
Yeah.
valuable. I mean, I consider myself a generalist. Like, put me on
Mm.
sales, put me on customer success, put me on marketing, put me on support, like put me on anything and I'll figure it out. But
Yeah.
like I have worked with pretty much every single vertical that you can think of at this point.
Yeah.
So, I know a little bit about a lot of different things, which also I bring with me a network across a lot of different verticals as well, which is super
Yeah.
helpful because if I don't know somebody, I probably know somebody who does. Or if I need a
Yeah.
connection in a certain vertical, I can probably get there.
Yeah. That's really cool. You did mention how times change and things change, like terms that are used change over time. I know there are cycles from bull market to bear market for normies like me. That's just all we know. It's up or it's down for the next couple of months. How
Yeah.
have these cycles affected marketing and marketing strategy in general?
I think, in my opinion, you need to build trust with your marketing,
Okay.
because there are so many projects that are spinning up on all these different chains, and there's a lot of bad actors out there. I mean, like I've seen a ton of fraud. I got my start working in payments, so I've seen like a lot of,
Oh,
like
yeah.
crisis mode, all the time. I've seen it. So for me, like I have a little bit of like PTSD from like seeing all this fraud,
Yeah.
understanding how this stuff works on the back end.
Yeah.
So for me, like when I'm thinking about building out strategy and what my marketing would look like, especially in the DeFi space, because there's
Hmm.
more regulators looking at that, you really need to be transparent. You really need to build trust. You really need to not be afraid to get out there and jump on podcasts and explain your product or why you're different. And if you're not doing that, I think people might be a little bit hesitant to like connect their wallet to your product, because I'm pretty sure everybody has been had one of their wallets compromised. I mean, I've clicked on the bad link and it's gone, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I think that's the biggest thing, is like building trust. And you can do that. You can do that with like a
Yeah.
degen tone. You can do that with more institutional tone. It's just really
Hmm.
making sure that people trust your product enough to use it and stick with you.
Yeah. And I guess that just ensures continuity across cycles, right? Like
Yeah.
the market is up, it's down, folks just trust you and they know you're working on something. This is legit. It's not a bunch of crooks
Yeah.
somewhere cooking something up.
But I mean, like you got to pivot too. I mean, I was at a company that, we started and there was one idea, and then FTX
Hmm.
collapsed, and then we pivoted again, and then the bank run happened, and then we pivoted again, and then another
Wow.
company that we were working with collapsed, and then we pivoted again. So I mean, like, that's the thing about early stage companies, and that's why it's a risk as well. And
Hmm.
these founders are like busting their asses to make sure that they can stay afloat if something out
Yeah.
of their control happens. um, it's a lot of pivoting. Some people get it right the first
Hmm.
time, and that's awesome. But the majority of people need to be ready to pivot, not only just due to like economical circumstances, but maybe there's just like not a product market fit, and you need to pivot based on the
Hmm.
conversations that you're having.
Yeah. Huh. You did mention like a number of like organizations. I remember one thing I wanted to talk about on this stream was partnerships and how
Mhm.
important they are. What's your take on partnerships in Web3 ecosystem, and how important are they for growth, both
Yeah.
product growth and just overall ecosystem growth?
So important. Oh my gosh. Partnerships is my favorite. I love talking to everybody. So first things first, I would tell everybody, if you're in sales, get your CRM shit together. What are you guys doing? It's like, it's so
Yeah.
crazy to me. Even if you're just in an Excel or a Notion, like get your shit together, because I have had partnerships that I've had conversations with. You throw them in the CRM or you track, like wherever you're tracking this, and you
Hmm.
just keep in touch with them. And then 6 months later, you close one of the biggest deals in company history because you've kept in contact with them,
Yeah.
or they're a resource to get referrals as well. Like, hey, maybe you're
Yeah.
trying to partner with somebody else that they're working with. Okay, cool. Like, we're friends. Like, can you introduce me? Like, a lot of Web3 is a ton of referrals, and like you'll see this trending on crypto Twitter is, this
Yeah.
BD. I'm a BD. I'm a B. Let's get in the group chats, the GCs, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's been around for a while. This isn't anything new. Like, if you're an OG, you're in the group chats. Like, this has been going on
Yeah.
forever, and it's just an easier way to just get the intros, and everybody's on the same page with it. But another thing, and I know I'm rambling, but that's okay. Another thing I wanted to say is, if, let's say, you're a scaling company and you're getting some more traction, And
Mm-hmm.
you have been taking care of your CRM from the very beginning, and now you're getting ready to do some, I don't know, let's say like beta testing, or you're getting ready to release a new feature. If you're keeping track of these people in your CRM, if it's a B2B or D2C,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, right there are your testers. Right there, these are the people that are willing to give you feedback. They're willing to tell you the good,
Mm-hmm.
the bad. I mean, these are early adopters, so you don't need to go out and try to find all these testers. Like, they're right there, and they'll give you the most honest feedback that you can from anybody, because
Yeah.
you've been talking to them. They know what you're building, and they want to be a part of it. So
Mm-hmm.
partnerships it's so important. I mean, even if you don't close deals with them, it
Yeah.
just opens up, like, who knows who, and you'll
Yeah.
get to where you need to be.
Yeah. That's great. Thanks for that. I assume, a lot of I also speak to a number of founders after like the first conversation with a prospect or a potential partner, and it doesn't go through. They're just like, okay, we need to focus on something else. We need to focus on the next person, right? Rather than seeing this as they're not ready to buy or they're not ready to provide value, but they
Yeah,
could in the future. So it's
definitely.
that's an important thing to note for sure.
I mean, partnerships doesn't mean you have a contract.
Yeah.
Partnerships, I mean, it's like your ecosystem. It goes into your community. I mean, even when you're thinking about your marketing, I mean, who is
Hmm.
looking at your marketing? Are they technical? Are they non-technical? Based on what kind of
Hmm.
message you're putting out there, can they take that
Yeah.
and sell your product? If they're in a random conversation at a convention, when somebody says, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody that has this kind of product." Well, if they
Yeah.
remember that and they understood what you're marketing, you just created a free salesperson for you, and there's your
Yeah.
referral from
Champion.
exactly, like, there it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay. I see we're coming up on time. I'm just trying to get us like on time. This conversation has been so great. I'm just looking at the time to make sure we did not go over. But thank you so much for all the tips and yeah, sharing your experience and your story with us. I think I should get you back on the stream for like something much longer because I
Yeah,
have like a ton of questions here. I haven't gotten
let's
to
do
like
it.
I haven't gotten to ask. So definitely we will get on one of these in the future. What's the best way for anyone to find you if someone has like subsequent questions or they want to talk to you about being a fractional CMO, working with Coinbound? What's the
Yeah.
best place?
Um, I'm on LinkedIn. I live on all my socials. If people tell me all the time, they're like, "You are the fastest person to
Yeah,
respond." I know that's because I'm literally live on everything. So Telegram, it's at Lindsay Key. LinkedIn, I live on LinkedIn as well. It's, just
yeah,
find my name, Lindsay Keyfauver. Twitter, if you want to find me on there. I'm more of a watcher on Twitter, but
yeah, yeah.
maybe Crypto Whale is me on there as well. So we can do a post so people can find me if you want to.
Yep, definitely. That'd be great. Well, to everyone else listening, thank you so much for hanging out with us on this week's episode of Everything Outside Code. And yeah, I'll see you next week on another episode. And have a wonderful rest of the day then. Cheers.